To our April monthly Warrangi Council meeting. I declare the meeting open. Call for apologies, and I think the General Manager has some three apologies.
Mayor, Councillor Bruce, Higgins and McCloskey.
Thank you. Someone happy to move those apologies for this meeting? Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Secondly, Councillor Taylor. We put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on Thursday, the 24th of March. Is someone happy to move those minutes? Confirm those. Councillor Jackson's happy to move that. Second, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Jackson? No. Any questions, comments relating to those minutes of the March monthly meeting? No one had a question, Gary? I thought no. Be nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 4 of our agenda, I remind councillors of their obligations in regarding disclosures of interest. Have any of those been noted for this meeting? Councillor Jarrett, in relation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to the reports of Divisional Manager of Finance Administration, item 3, which is already on the screen.
Thank you, Councillor Jarrett.
And just as a check, Councillor O'Donnell, you might have something too. Did you declare an interest in in public arts private knowledge? You were saying in the public, one in the public arts committee. You've got one too. One public arts committee. You happy with that?
Yeah.
The public art and private property rules.
Thank you. Nothing further in terms of disclosures of interest, pecuniary or otherwise, in the matters that are before us today. Just need to note those. Yep. Moving on to item 5 of our agenda, and that is the mayoral minute. I will move that this item be deferred until the whole of council closed committee meeting, and we can discuss that matter there in a confidential manner. So I'm moving that. No further. Any discussion? I don't need a seconder. Any discussion though before I put that? All those in favour then? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 6, reports of the committees. The first of those being the meeting of the Warren Public Arts Committee held on Tuesday the 12th of April. Someone happy to move the minutes of that meeting? Thank you, Councillor Walker as chairman. Councillor Jackson. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's an interesting meeting. There's a few changes that came out of it, as can be seen by the
Mr. Mayor, Councillor O'Donnell, you probably find you just need to disappear outside for a while when we're discussing this. Sorry, Councillor.
Thank you. So the first one, CDs were turning of the cod on the JC's Cafe, so it does face the river and Dubbo Street. The one is on code, by, so that we need to have a credit to be acknowledged to Outback Pioneer Longreach. The old previous theatre, because there's a well, it's the sale, and this all needs to be done by 30th of June, so it was decided by the committee. Thanks, but we go ahead with another mural, which is this one on the toilet block Green Park, the which you can see have been given. Yeah, so that was the decision that we took, that we had an option and leave the legal theatre because it's undecided and it mightn't be able to be finished by the end of June. There were amendments to the tennis court, which we went back to what people around Colo would have, what they thought they would like to see, and that is what he has come up with. Bastian, I must say that I think we are.
Any sheep,
Yeah, I think we.
I think we asked for Marina sheep. I'm not sure
It's a cross finish to me, Councillor Walker, but
So we might have to get back to, to see if we can get a merino, maybe a pole or.
We need to do a slight modification to the waterway as well, I think.
So it looks a little bit like another thing. And also, so that, and the park at Metatime, we did make amendments to that, but he hasn't got to do. Yeah, so that was what was brought up by the council. Yeah, so, I don't know, I'll leave it with, got any comments, Ray, on you're in contact with the artists?
through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Chairman.
We will need to go back to Bastion on a couple of those. The Nevertide Park, we asked for it to be more realist than, sorry, I've forgotten that. More accurate, to move away from abstract into more realist. And he hasn't quite gotten that concept yet. And as I said earlier, in the one regarding the Collei, we need to adjust the sheep and the waterway in the background, because whilst I'm no expert on the Martha's Creek, I don't think that there's an area that looks like that. So we'll have that tidied up a little bit, and I'll try and have those. We'll have those final ones to the next meeting of the Public Arts Committee,
Which is on the 9th.
which is on the 9th of May.
Also, I did forget, I'm very sorry, that Kerry Jones was at the meeting also, and toilet block in Lions Park, and also the one in the main street, to have a wraparound collage on the Lions Park, which was the Macquarie River theme. The other one for the main street was a historical collage, historical photos of wine.
So, Councillor Walker, Lion Park is the same. Is it historical photos of wine, or is it something else?
It would be, well, not really historical, it's just a Macquarie River theme.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. I just wasn't quite clear. Yes, sorry. Councillor Brewer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, for the Manager of Engineering Services, this image, this is indication only. I understand that's the wrong animal there, but the aspect ratio looks a little bit out, a little bit too tall. We're aware of that, aren't we? I hate to skid all that way and we have these stretchy looking cattle in there.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll have those conversations and we'll have all those adjusted.
It's the perspective, I think. And if we could, get back to the picture. I think he's probably over this tree.
Councillor Jackson.
Services, Divisional Manager Engineering Services, beg your pardon. Just wondering, there was comments just in the minutes from community members of the committee about being more lifelike. Would that not mean a complete reworking of this design? Is there an opportunity to maybe I don't know what the artist would think of that interpretation, but I can't see how this could be more lifelike and still be the same design, because this is an abstract design. And there were other comments made by community members contrasting with that, saying that they thought this was playful and suitable for children. So I'm just wondering about how, you said the artist might not have got the brief, how much longer can that sort of cycle of iteration go on? And I was interested to say, did the artist actually talk to you about this particular design too?
Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to speak with Bastian about these revised designs. They arrived sometime after midnight in my email last night or this morning. I did send him the exact wording from the resolution from the committee meeting, and I did speak to him about that. The committee did say that they wanted the same theme for the Nabatai fence, but to go from abstract to more realistic. As I say, he hasn't picked up on that, unfortunately, so we'll have another conversation, and I'll see what we can get out of him. Excuse me. So yeah, I'll have those conversations as soon as I can get hold of him, and we'll go from there.
So remind me, your time frame is fairly short. When do you, if the funding runs out 30th of June, is that correct? So, in time frame of then consulting, as Councillor Jackson was saying, and then agreeing on final designs, I guess what we need to do is be ticking off some of them and saying, yes, that's right, that's right, that's right, let's get those started, but the other ones, we can't have to hold up the whole project is what I'm thinking for the sake of one or two. So if we can just...
That's right, and I think that Mr Mayor, we may, I don't believe we'll have time to go back out to community consultation for the revised ones. And so we're going to have to rely on the committee and the council to make the final call on those particular ones that we still have issues with. But I agree that we should move forward with the ones that we're happy with.
Mr Mayor, some of these can go ahead because he's doing them on panels, Bastian will be doing them on panels, so if we give them the tick for
I know, I need to clarify. This is what we're moving.
Yep.
He has to make sure that whatever's produced is in accordance with the requirement of their resolution. So the best thing to do is ignore the ones that are wrong, because they will be made correct. Right? That's all you need to do, is the description up there is what's going to happen. It's just that if Raymond had only given you that one, and that one, and Gadoo's felt right, you would have thought, you beauty, everything's cool. He's just got some more work to do on these, and Raymond and I will promise you that he will do it right. Okay? He's not saying he'll be right. He's just, Bob he needs to actually just get the final thoughts right, and he will. Merino is Merino. Let's put some Brahman instead of Hereford.
Oh. Sandy Cruz.
Yes.
We're ready to strike here, councillors.
So everything's right.
And through you also, Mr Mayor, there is a recommendation that council accept the final design of the mural for the which has had various changes also.
I think it's pretty good at
Thank you, Councillor Walker. So the recommendation of the council is in front of us there. Councillor Walker has moved that recommendation. Is there any further comments, questions regarding the Public Arts Committee's meeting? Nothing further. We put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the second of our committee reports, that being the NANEX meeting held on 19th of April. So we'll pause for a minute. Pause for a minute while Councillor Van Helden comes back into the meeting. Thank you. Moving on to the second item on the report of the committees, that being the Manix committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 9th of April. I'm happy to move those minutes. Thank you, Councillor Derrick. Seconded. Councillor Jackson, Councillor Derrick.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Happy to move recommendation. I wondered if the General Manager might like to make a comment on the RMCC contract review and action plan outlined in the General Manager's.
So the project team, consisting of the roads overseer, the roads infrastructure manager, the acting divisional manager of green services, myself, and the asset manager, and Darren's helping in regard to finance work. We had a forum that we were very lucky. Berkshire Council, 2 senior officers who look after theirs, actually gave us half a day over life size to actually try to go through the matter. I'm reporting to the main meeting the hopefully acceptance of the RMCC contract. We've gone through it. I've gone through it completely. And made some various project notes to start preparing that project team. The RMAP, which is really the budget for maintenance, is they've estimated we're going to get about $215,000, not $185,000, but that is still fairly low with maintenance wise. On 63 or 65 kilometres of road that's in not too great a condition, and it keeps raining on it, so the grass keeps growing and the potholes keep getting bigger. We hopefully before the 30th of June will actually have an asset inspection with those officers. Transport for New South Wales are being very positive. We're expecting our application for R2 road level 2 million, finance F5, which is and G general, which is for traffic control, to go in before the 30th of June. They commented, Transport for New South Wales commented to us that for maintenance level, we will be given conditional go ahead anyway, and it's R2 conditional for councils anyway, because even when we get R2 ready for our works orders. We would like, we're doing gap analysis of what resources are missing, what resources we need to divert to the work, and how we're going to practically do it, and that'll be all done leading up to the 30th of June. One area that worries all of us is that we are missing asset technical officer roads, which is the officer that probably would do a reasonable amount of the surveillance and inspections. And until that position's filled, the roads overseer will have to do it. 2/3 of that kind of inspection is kind of done 9 times every fortnight, because he lives in Gill, but then the 20 kilometres that way he has to find some time to do. That doesn't do a proper inspection, because a lot of time you might be travelling home too late, things like that. So we've still got some gap analysis on resources to do, and to prepare ourselves. Report coming to the main meeting, which most probably will be a positive report. We just trying our hardest to make sure we're ready for Friday, the 1st of July. But rubbish bins get cleaned before use. Hopefully, the community of Warren Shire want us to be doing it anyway, instead of them ringing us up and we're saying, well, no, you need to contact someone else to be able to do it, so we can actually react to things straight away. And Mr. Mayor, hopefully we have a Divisional Energy Engineering Services on board pretty soon that will be a little bit more conversant with RMCC. Our roads infrastructure manager has done a fair amount of work with RMCC over the time as well.
Thank you, General Manager. Any further comments, questions regarding the meeting of the Mannix Committee held on the 19th of April? I would just draw Council's attention to that 4.1.6 there regarding the community events program. We need to be put our minds to that. There are a number there that I think are very worthwhile, and we need to work towards how we might allocate that funding in terms of Christmas party. In my view, is a great community event when it occurs. I think that certainly sits up there. The Warren Chamber Music Festivals has been another one that's been very successful, and it's for a different group. I think we need to support a youth activity of some kind. And the other big one I think that will be very worthwhile is we've seen the completion of the Barama Walkway project, and the opening of that is something again that is a big part of our community in terms of where we go forward in terms of tourism and the visitor economy. So, but I think we need to certainly consider those. That money is available to be used until, Darren, you might just
31st of March 2023.
Yeah.
So
12 months.
So Christmas 22 function, we've actually started the ball rolling with Barama and Mrs. Evans in relation to the festival. They are actually, both of those organisations are actually putting in other major grant applications for enlarged events using the another COVID, another very large events program, as well as hopefully us contributing from this to their large event, and our event money being a fallback if they miss out. So the Christmas function will be something that Council tries to coordinate with absolutely representatives of all the organisations that you would expect. Haven't had the chance to have a good conversation with Warren Youth Foundation, but hopefully they can also put something on a youth festival. A little bit of a conversation about museum opening festival, but not, they actually haven't been as positive about that as hoped. So there's at least 4 that we need to make up about $120,000 worth of our event contribution. And we have to finalise that ready for the 24th of June 2022. So some final decisions will start to come out of the Economic Development and Promotions Committee in 2 weeks' time. And we need to make sure we try to allocate our 119,826 ready to go. So there's at least 4 major ones there that we think can start to make up most of that, just under 120,000.
The discussion in many ways has been based around the idea that it's better to have 3 or 4 really good big functions that involve a wide part of the community rather than a whole lot of little things that only cater to a small number of people. And so that's been the philosophy behind trying to get these things and saying to people involved, yes, continue with what you're doing. We're going to do it anyway to a certain extent, but at least you know that it's going to happen. You've got the funding there that is going to make sure it's going to happen. So that's where we've been coming from in terms of just providing lead-in advice, but some final decisions, as the gentleman has been saying, need to be made by council about exactly where that funding is at the end of June. Councillor Jackson, sorry.
I just wondered about the Christmas party, Christmas street party. is that the sort of event as well that council would support with this money, or would council look at different funds to?
It's actually the 91, then you have between 35 and 45,000 out of them.
Is that what Drew's heard with Chamber of Commerce?
Well, we'll be conversing with the Chamber of Commerce regarding that, but I think the opportunity is for it to speak with a really wide, that Christmas event when it would last run was extremely successful, and I think it brings our community very much together, and hence the comment from the General Manager about involving a very wide ranging group of people. Nonetheless, it falls down to a smaller group of people, and there's a bit tighter committee to actually see that it all happens, but there is, in my view, broad support in our community to having that Christmas party, and I think that's one that we should promote really actively. Anything further on the Mannix committee meeting held on the April 19th? Nothing further. With that, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to reports to council, and these are the reports of the delegates. The first of those, one is the AGM and the ordinary meeting of the mining and energy related councils. Someone happy to move those, that report from, well, General Manager was the delegate. Did we have another delegate attend that? No. Someone happy to move that report. Councillor Jackson, Councillor Kinsey. Councillor Jackson.
I have nothing to add.
General Manager, would you like to just give a quick summary of what, anything beyond the normal, nothing particularly in that and beyond those minutes? No.
Just re-election, the election of new councillors, representative.
I note with interest there's news items regarding Bathurst and Lithgow and Orange One did become part of the renewable energy zone on ABC Radio News this morning, so they're missing out and we're missing out. So it's a pretty tight little spot which we can raise again with Dougal Sanders at Cobar and probably the failings of the thinking in this council's view as well about where renewable energy could occur. There being nothing further on the item one of the renewable energy, the mining and energy related councils meeting. We'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the second item there, the AGM, the ordinary meeting of the Outback Arts body. Outback Arts Incorporated, moved by Councillor Jackson, second, Councillor Walker. Councillor Jackson.
Through Mr. Mayor. It was a very positive experience. An outgoing councillor, Pauline Surtees was there, and they did take the time to thank her for her significant contribution to the life of Outback Arts through a wide-ranging number of roles, and certainly very big shoes to fill. But just keeping this brief, there's money available for various arts projects, and Warren will be participating in some of those projects. The next one coming up is a blog. They're going to different towns and recording the stories of people, and then releasing those as a podcast. So they'll be coming to Warren in May, and they'll be looking for individuals who they can interview to tell their story from a variety of backgrounds and ages. So waiting to hear back on how they're actually going to recruit those people. Most likely they will contact myself as the representative, because they no longer retain the services of an Outback Arts person as they used to. It used to be Fleur, Stubbs, they no longer, that role doesn't exist anymore. So we'll keep everyone informed, because if any of you know of anybody who think it'd be good, or you yourself would like to participate, please let me know and I can pass that on to the guys at Outback Arts. That's pretty much it. Very positive, proactive group of people. So I think that's something very good for the arts landscape in our district and town.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson, and I'd point out to councillors that Councillor Jackson is the treasurer of that organisation, so congratulations, I think, Councillor Jackson on that. My initial reaction is, I think we should be interviewing, without being unkind, older people in our community, because we won't always have that opportunity to interview them and see them reflect on what's has and hasn't happened in Warren over a long period of time. So that is my just intuitive first port of call, Councillor Jackson. That makes reasonable sense to you. Councillor Walker.
Friends, Mayor, I just want to ask Councillor Jackson, when I wrote a thing about looking for a coordinator in that, and that's what you're talking about. Is it a position where various people go around to interview people in the community for this project?
So the, through you, Mr Mayor, Signal Creative are they've been contracted by Outback Arts to run this project, and some of you might remember Signal Creative did a big thing to the school where they got, you know, they're not Indigenous, but they did an Indigenous dance, and they did all sorts of art, and they had the sticks wrapped with ribbon in the window there. It's unclear to me. I believe that they want us as representatives of the community to at least work with Signal Creative in trying to actually identify people. They haven't really, they said, we will get back to you as to the mechanics of that, because as I said, they don't have representatives, but they do have contacts. So they are, and they have relationships with people. Mrs Evans of the Warren Chamber Music Festival is an example, because she is the recipient of CASP grants, as is local artist Jude Fleming, also a recipient of CASP grants. So they have their networks, but they're yet to really give us detail on how it's going to work.
Keeps all posted up. I think that's an important historical record to this town, local government area. Any further comments, questions regarding the AGM and the ordinary meeting about Back Arts Incorporated? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to reports of the General Manager, and the first of those is the outstanding reports checklist. Very extensive list there. Someone happy to move that matter, item 1, the outstanding report checklist from the General Manager report. Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Second, Councillor Walker. Councillor Jackson.
I have done nothing to gather no questions. Thank you.
Just a question, if I might, regarding infrastructure projects, the ones that we voted money from the local roads community infrastructure to get them finished, being the airport building, CBD toilets, line park toilets.
Airport building, we're attempting to still find a builder. We've been trying to keep in touch. We've been keeping in touch with the main person who's actually going to lease the terminal building, and so it's at least 3 months behind. The other two are just about to go out to them.
Okay. Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the sewage works commission.
We've got a practical completion certificate to arrange. The infrastructure project manager's been attempting to get the contractor back for some minor work before practical completion. Then finalisation work. It's the practical completion that will then tick off our licence, and then hopefully we start using the facility. I still think it's probably end of May before we're thinking about having moved all the equipment and gear that our operator has into its new facilities.
Thank you. Councillor Kinsey, sorry.
Mr Mayor, just Nevertire, the curb and guttering at Nevertire is much appreciated. what's been done is damn good, it works. But I just want, just two questions. There's some pegs near the, phone booth, corner of Nevertire Hotel there. Probably if they're not going to be used for any future purpose, pull them out. I've been asked to ask you guys this, I don't care if they go or not. And if you
On the
can,
corner, councillor, on the corner, or a little bit
where the phone booth is, right at the corner.
Yeah,
Yeah, why they're there, who knows, but yeah. And the other one is, in future, are we doing any more?
no, not in Nevertire.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Funds have been expended.
I was done.
Works program lines, have you been able to seal in front of, check? He's trying to do the sealing in the warrant, some of the warrant stuff and the Nevertire stuff at the same time. There's supposedly no concern about water ingress because the DGB 20 material was slightly mixed with slagman, which makes it a little bit more waterproof than just normal material. That's what I've been told. And he's just trying to save money in the end of doing some sealing works all at the same time.
Thank you, councillor Walker.
Thanks, Mayor. I was just wondering, page 7, was there any update on the person that was wanting to buy the blocks of land, and it says now, matter now in the hand of the prospective purchaser? I'm just wondering if there's been any update or contact with them. Okay.
There's no further further correspondence, either over the phone or.
Thank you.
I think it is opportunity just just to flag it, if you wouldn't mind.
At the Alliance of Western Councils meeting on the 30th of March, the General Manager at Western, at Mudgee Council, Western Council, he's the chair of an organisation called Housing Plus. And Housing Plus, a social affordable housing organisation that's I think we've got about 1,800 homes across the western region. They're attempting to actually negotiate with the state government to actually take over most of the Western New South Wales Housing Commission properties. And they've got access to a fairly large amount of funds by grant, loans, and etc. And they are interested in considering developing affordable housing, not social housing, affordable housing in Warren, and as well as the 36 managing and properly upgrading the housing New South Wales properties. There's 36 of them, plus 6 very large vacant blocks of land that are owned by Housing New South Wales. And our 8 or 9 blocks at Gunbar that they're considering. So we've got more work to do, more information to provide to them, and more important to do to the council, including Manager Finance Administration Services is going to provide a report to probably May council meeting to update the value of those 9 blocks of land in Gunbar Estate.
Yeah, so the concept is there's a distinction between affordable housing and social housing. So affordable is more for those who are employed, but fully employed, but don't have the income to pay significant amounts of rent. So that it's the sometimes it'll be the council, basically it'll be sometimes the council employees who need that help with finding housing, and we're finding it a problem for employers right around the council area, finding suitable accommodation for people they want to employ. It's just not there. So we'll continue to have that discussion with housing plus, yeah, and just see whether we have some possibilities here that might fit with their program.
Mr Mayor, the Housing Plus is a NGO or
Yeah. And
it's a charity NGO.
Brad Campbell is the chair of that organisation, is also the GM at Big Western, but a very capable, in my view, operator. And so we'll further discussions. We approached him after the meeting and we'll further that discussion and of course review. And as a whole council completely informed, but I think it's a progression that we can make in a sensible way. The land that we have available and the vacant land, particularly in Gunnybark, and then the vacant land around the town, that we can beef up our housing availability in a way that probably wouldn't have otherwise happened in private enterprise.
And through you, Mr Mayor, this does fit into a planning document that we're going to talk about or have done.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councillor Brewer and then Councillor Walker. Councillor Brewer.
Just a note for councillors, later on we're talking about the rubber tyre roller purchase, which is in at which is in at page 18, 28, 10, 21. There's a couple of things there that will be justified later on that will no longer exist in this plant changeover. Being the small excavator plant 1168, the $7,000 for a deck in here is reported as not required, but in the interim it's been identified. Well, it's reported in here as being investigated as if required, but the outcome for that is it's not required, so it frees up a little bit of the money. We'll talk about it later on, but because the cost of something's deferred doesn't mean the cost goes away. So that $15,000 for that small excavator has to be found next year now and renegotiated, and it might reshuffle the priorities a little bit on a smaller plant as a result. But it's in the closed meeting afterwards, and we're talking about the tender process for the rubber roller. Just want to bring that to everyone's attention. There'll be certain things here that a report has been purchased which will not be purchased in the plant going forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Walker, you have something?
Yeah, through me, I was just wanting to ask the manager of Health and Development about the TIP. I notice the contract has been appointed for the next step, which is, concreting, transfer station. Is that been, I know it's been raining, but is there a timeline for that development?
Through you, Mr Mayor. We are, there's some civil works that need to be done. We're just exploring our options, whether it's better to go do that via a contractor or whether we do that in-house. But yeah, currently with the wet weather, it's making things challenging.
And also another question for you, Ms. Mayor, the tender, has that been decided?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the tender closes today. Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, the Yoma Waste Depot Committee, you're getting a lovely report for the 18th of May, 19th of May?
Monday the 16th.
Monday the 16th of May.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions on item 1? Excuse me, the General Manager's report, the outstanding reports, check please. Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 2, the committee and director's report. As is our long-term tradition, this will be a standing agenda item in recognition of Warren Town. Looking for Councillor to move item 2, Councillor Kinsey, second, Councillor Brewer, Councillor Kinsey.
Mr Mayor, I should have told you guys earlier, but there's a meeting, Castle Road, Lightning Ridge, on the 3rd of May. 4th of May, they're going, what's that, mate? Yeah.
It's, yeah, in a couple of days.
Yeah, and they're gonna have a bus tour on the 4th of May. I'll be attending the meeting, but I won't be doing the bus tour. Get back there.
Thank you.
Hopefully.
Thank you, councillor Kinsey.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Brewer, did you have something else?
No, I just, I'll be an apology for that Castle Road meeting. We've got, Mark Coulton here that day, and I've deferred priorities to that rather than kicking birds around.
Just make reference to one of the meetings that was held, just to keep councils up to date. The Macquarie Airspace Reference Panel meeting that the General Manager and I attended on the 12th of the 4th in relation to the level of Burrendong Dam. The end result of that was that Burrendong essentially be run at Councillor Whiteman Group, by bringing up to date, was it 101% now?
It would change today, but it's about between 9 and 11.
Yeah. So we trying as best we can, and the consensus view is that the dam would be run maintained at the 110% capacity for as long as is possible running into the summer, with the view that if the weather forecast turns and expected some really heavy downpours over the catchment, then that might have to be revisited. So there's not too much disagreement with that view. So it's encouraging from our long-term view of having Burrendong full supply level being 120% capacity.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this committee is pretty important because the long-term manager of the valley is retiring as of I think last week, and the committee needs to be on top of losing that much corporate money.
Three you're speaking of,
yes.
And Dan Berry has a little bit longer with the...
Yeah, but the amount of corporate knowledge that we lost with those two gentlemen is,
Yep. So
it'll take a fair bit of filling, and whilst the juniors is the wrong word, while their people did a pretty good job last year, but it was all guided by that corporate knowledge, which will be a big hole.
Yeah. On the positive side, there's some people in this valley and this local government area who have some long-standing expertise along the river, and I think that will hold us in good stead. I think the important thing is in the discussions that take place, they do start at the bottom of the valley and have that view taken into account almost first, and so we get to, council was probably the last to speak in many ways, but our landholders did make some sensible suggestions as to the way that rivers should be managed, and particularly keeping in light of the end of 19 when the river was closed off here at the top weir, and the resultant fish kills that occurred downstream. There is a degree of mindfulness even in the environmental groups that this is probably not the ideal, that wasn't the ideal outcome. Okay, anything further on the item 2? Councillor Walker.
Previously, I was just wondering, the 7th of the 4th, Western Plains app, Lee and Madison.
That's that digital app out of the Coonamble paper, and then just working on councils around the area, seeing whether we can join them promotionally wise. So it's like a news app.
Oh, okay. Yes.
It's just great that it is worth just getting on your phone that app, Western Plains app, because there's a lot of pertinent things in the news feed, pertinent things for councils pop up and from other councils, of course, and as well as ourselves. But yeah, it's quite well put together in my view.
The loop. Thank you.
that's something that, hopefully an economic development and visitation manager will provide advice about, see whether, I haven't been negative or positive on the matter. But we've left it open to talk to them further.
Anything further on item 2, the committee and delegates meetings? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. I invite you to be seated. Moving on to item 3, the reports of the general manager. First, the third of those being the works progress report regarding infrastructure projects. Someone happy to move item 3? Thank you, Councillor Whiteley. Second, Councillor Kinsley. Councillor Whiteley.
I commend the report to you and, through you, Mr Mayor, I ask for discussion.
We're slowly, as some parts of projects are completed, we're removing them. So there will be some misalignment for a while, because some parts of the projects are really some parts of the whole budget. So you hopefully between the officers here we can explain any things that need to be clarified and that's happening across all the works progress reports. You'll notice. What the Divisional Manager of Finance Administration is hoping that as that happens, we'll call it the job number system actually doesn't allow any further expenditure. And there's one way we can control it. If you want, so if someone says it's complete, it's complete.
It shuts.
Close the jobs. And then someone has to say, well, I forgot to get the roll or something like that. And that can happen too. Or a month later, the roller bill comes in. But there's lots of work going on, and will still be lots of work going on, and let's hope that we get lots more grants. Particularly Commonwealth grants at this time of year, and as we're leading up to the March 23 state budget.
Comments, questions regarding the progress report for infrastructure projects? Councillor Jackson.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Just had a question regarding the tender for the amenities block at Carter Oval. I was just wondering the progress on that.
It's a draft stage. The three, only 2 out of the 3 main users have had some minor consultation with the plan, and that's still happening.
Councillor Walker.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just wondering the Lions Park and the Main Street toilets, so you've got the go ahead to be built or developed?
Yes, I was hoping that vendor panel quotations will be going out in the next week or so. Both of them. I mean, they're always, we're going to have some sort of film on the outside of them, and part of the vendor panel quotation specifications that we want film was eventually when someone's successful. Here's our film design, please. But I mean, those 3 projects, including the airport terminal building and some minor works with a next door neighbour for drainage at the airport, they've just been delayed because so many things going on at the same time. And builders not being available.
Councillor Kinsey.
I suppose it's a bit late to bring this one up, but the Nevertire Knoll Waters toilet block, the sewerage system on that is that gonna be a tank or is that gonna go straight to where it all goes for the whole town?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
There's a new small sewer pumping station that will be put in to replace the old septic system. And a rising main will run from that location into a manhole located in the alleyway behind the old Catholic church. So it'll go then straight into the sewer system.
Thank you.
Anything further on the works progress report regarding infrastructure projects? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 4, the draft Warren Shire 2035 community strategic plan, and going back which one?
Mr. Mayor, just so, I'm on the board of the recommendations, but as we discussed yesterday, a proposed slight change to number 2 is after operational plan. As amended at the councillor workshop on 27th of April 2022.
Thank you very much. Just up to speed there. Council was, will be aware there was a workshop yesterday. A number of councillors were certainly able to attend. There were some minor amendments to the community strategic plan. The intent certainly not changed at all for those who weren't there, but we'll incorporate those changes into the 2035 community strategic plan, and then hence into the operational plan, the delivery plan, the operational plan. So going back, so I'm happy to move the adoption, or the draft 2035 community strategic plan, and henceforth the operation, the delivery plan, the operational plan. Councillor Brewer is happy to move that. Second, and Councillor Derrick. Councillor Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to congratulate the General Manager actually on the process this time round to achieve these documents in a timely manner. We had a public meeting about it. We had a whole weekend summit that we discussed these and a workshop. So I think it's been fairly thoroughly completed. I'm pretty happy with the outcomes of that. And I think we've folded in the comments from the public into it as well. So I'm hopeful that when it goes to on public display, it'll attract no bad press, hopefully. I'm pretty confident that it's as good a document as we could do under the circumstances.
Councillor Derrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If one has a short list of minor amendments in terms of grammar and punctuation, can they be passed on today?
Yes, please. Thank you. Gratefully received, Councillor Derrick. One of my, I can't believe, bugbears.
Short list.
Asking for a friend.
Very short list.
I'm very pleased. Please, if you notice something, let's fix it. We do have the opportunity to bring it back after the draft. Then I see it, but nice to go exactly as the General Manager is just saying. It's imperative it goes out well constructed and well structured, punctuated. Yes, thank you, Councillor Derrick, for that.
Mr. Mayor, I back up the comments very genuine in the GM and the process, but I'd also like to personally congratulate the staff that put their time into it, and the councillors. You know, there was a long and drawn out weekend, and there've been other hours of reading, and then yesterday afternoon I think it was painful to do, but it was done well.
Thank you, Councillor Whiteley. I think that's a positive endorsement in the end. Councillor Walker.
Yes, yeah, I'd like to just thank the organisation of the summit and the idea behind it, and I think it was fantastic to see councillors and council staff together and talking together and just, you know, to come out with a document that's for the community. I thought the process was fantastic, and it was long, but it was, I think, productive and just a cooperative process that worked really well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Any further comments, questions regarding item 4, the draft 2035 community strategic plan? And then the 2 other plans that flow out of that, the delivery and operational plan. If nothing further, we'll put that out, put that motion, and then that draft can go out to community feedback. Put that, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 5 of the General Manager report, that being the 2022 Local Roads Congress. Someone happy to move the recommendation there? Councillor Kinsey, second Councillor Brewer. Councillor Kinsey.
I trust we're going to, yeah, great idea. We are going to attend or send attendees. Who might they vote?
Sign today, I hope.
Yeah, that's the decision.
Right.
The decision today is to, if we endorse sending a councillor and a member of staff. So I think we can go. We need to decide, yeah, who might attend that meeting as well. Councillor Kinsey.
Well, I thought McCloskey and the GM would be a good start.
I'm actually, Mr. Mayor, I'm going as a member of the committee management of the Roads and Transport Director and Board Director of the IPWA. The only real cost is my time away. They're paying for everything. If there is, what they normally do is limit it to maximum of 2 people per council, excluding me. They've actually changed it to 3 people. In between the advice of writing this report, so we can afford, we think, another councillor to go if there's 2 councillors interested. Councillor McCloskey, actually, I asked him, because I knew he was going to be away, and I asked him he should check with the other councillors of their interest as well. But if there is another councillor interested, it's possible.
The chairman of the Roads Committee is Councillor Watson. Considering Councillor Brewer.
No, I'm available. If the council.
I attended last year and personally got a lot out of it. The meeting, the location, the networking, I fully endorse attendance. Absolutely endorse both Councillor Whiteling and McCloskey to go if that's the rest of the council will go that way, because it's very worthwhile. The whole thing's really good. It's quite an interesting exercise. So I've nominated that I'm available, but I'd rather step aside and let someone else go to it, because I'm not sure that I will get much more, I suppose I would, but happy for someone else to have a go. It's very worthwhile, and it's not a huge cost at the end of the day. When you look at the amount we spend on roads and the understanding of how they work, and you sort of lift the bonnet a little bit on how the state government works, it's well worth it.
Thank you, Councillor, for that contribution.
And Mr. Mayor, hopefully there is a reasonable chance that those 2 councillors will help start developing a relationship with the new divisional manager of engineering services who's on the list to go to. And it might time it that there's a chance it might time it with an appointment before then. So change that to, Mr. Mayor, approve the attendance of Councillor Whiteley and Councillor McCloskey.
If the mover and the seconder, Councillor Brewer and Councillor we're we're happy with that, is that? I believe it's important that we have councillors going to these meetings. I think Councillor Gill, when he came back from the last one, was quite enthusiastic, as he said, about the learning that goes on there and the ability to speak with people when we see these names in our business papers, but then if you can actually have made that personal connection with them, I think you're a long way in front and you hear it firsthand. So with those amendments, is there any further discussion on item 5? Being no further discussion, put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Moving on to item 6, report of the General Manager of the 2022 Western Division of Council's mid-term conference to be held in Cobar starting on Sunday afternoon. What is our recommendation there, sorry, General Manager?
That we're hoping the council
endorse the
Councillor Walker moved it.
Councillor Walker. Thank you, Councillor Walker. Second, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Walker.
There was a wink then.
I wanted to say, I actually attended this conference in my first year of being councillor and thought it was fantastic. And as you say, you're privy to talking to a lot of politicians and have time to spend with them and talk with them about your issues. So no, I thought it was a great conference and got a lot out of it. So I fully endorse that the General Manager and the Mayor attend.
Yeah, no, sure, yeah. So just to bring you, Councillor Walker attended the one up in Burke, what was that, 3 years ago then? I've forgotten.
That's quickly. I think it was longer than that.
Yeah, 4 years ago. But the upside of this one is that it's not the local government New South Wales conference where everyone is trying to get their 2 cents worth, and a lot of politicians don't attend anyway, the local government New South Wales conference. But on the agenda and confirmed as attending at Cobar as a Sunday night and Monday morning, our federal member Mark Colton, our state member Roy Butler, our duty our MLC for regional roads Sam Faraway, our duty MLC Scott Barrett, who we haven't met yet, but we'll invite at that meeting to come via Warren on his way home, if that's any sort of possibility, so we can acquaint him with where we sit. Gary Barnes, Secretary of the Department of Regional New South Wales, who's I think a very straight shooter and probably at pretty much the highest level of public service in a regional sense. So we'll certainly, he's been here at least once in no time, but nonetheless important to reconnect with him. Who else? We've got Wendy Tuckerman, who's the Minister for Local Government. So we'll certainly be making ourselves known to her, and particularly in reference to the joint organisation of councils that we've resigned from, but it still is in existence. Beyond that, Brad Cam of Housing Plus, we spoke of earlier, he has a presentation as well. So, yeah, and then the last one is Mark Spittle, the Western Local Health District CEO. So we'll have our work cut out speaking to those people, but I think the important thing is we'll have the opportunity to speak with them and present your questions, if you might, to any of those people, and then be asking them to answer those questions when they come to visit us. So we're making good use of the time rather than when they come to meet with us, asking the questions and then waiting for a reply. If we can be on the front foot and saying these are things we need to know about, or we'd like to know about, can you investigate those before you come to us? Councillor Taylor.
You would be appropriate if the deputy mayor should attend that meeting as well?
No objection to that. So I think it would give a fraction on the deputy mayor's availability and whether it fits in with our budget in terms of the council expenditure, and whether we can get some accommodation for the deputy mayor as well. The first question, we should be able to afford it, so that's overcome. The second question is availability, councillor Derrick.
Yes, I would like to. Today.
And
Just
then,
looking on the learning curve side of things, Mr Mayor.
certainly. So, in the worst case scenario, the general manager and I might be forced to share a room.
We're thinking very practically.
Yes, in case accommodation might well be a premium, that's what we're going to do.
Through you, Mr Mayor, different subject, but, it's good to see the politicians come back for 2 weeks in a row, and they were at Perth last week, all putting out bushfires, and I think, most of the Western councillors, in my philosophy of teamwork, it'd be pretty easy to all be thinking in the same lines as far as especially health and a few other matters. They got called at work because of a bushfire that they had put out in the media, and they all went there, including Mr Spittle. Yeah, I think everybody all Western councils need to be aligned, and I don't think there'll be too much problem for you guys to organise that.
Yeah, no, agree. We all really confronted by the same problems. So we probably need to make a distinction. This is not the Alliance of Western Councils that we spoke about. This is the West. Yeah, but this is the Western Division of Councils, which is further west than us. It's the Cobars, Broken Hills, Burke. So we're there by invitation, so we don't participate in their meeting, which is part of the agenda. We're just observers to that, but nonetheless, the view in the Western Alliance, the Alliance of Western Councils, is that lots of those councils, well, all those councils would really like to be part of the Alliance of Western Council, except for the ones right down in the south. So, and Broken Hill perhaps not either, but you know, there's a commonality there. So we fit well with that group of councils, even though we're not part of the actual organisation. So just getting back on track.
We've got to vote on whether you.
I think we need to amend that.
And Deputy Mayor,
if possible, yes. Implementation of Vice Council decision, and that the conference will be attended by the Mayor and the General Manager definitely, and the Deputy Mayor if available or possible. So that's fine. Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Fine.
So we'll be happy with that.
Anything further on item 6, the Western Division of Council's meeting? Councillor Lover.
Thanks, Mayor. I mean, all those people attending. You might get to see them all. Do you prioritise the sort of approach? If time is lacking.
We'll be jumping around.
Alrighty.
And we might split ourselves, if the three of us particularly.
The chat on the way out.
And just depending on how long they're there for, you know, Sam Fairway's indicated there's a 20 minutes time slot for each council to speak with him. So we'll avail ourselves of that. I'm not sure whether we've actually nominated a time slot for that yet. No, that's there. Mark Colton, you know, he'll come to us and have a chat because he's quite familiar with us. So we'll chase him, but I think getting in touch with Scott Barrett, the MLC, the duty MLC now, he's a new person we don't know, so we need to get certain, we need to get to know him. Still, I think we really very much need to get to know him, and so we'll be making sure that we, renewing the acquaintances that we already know, but making sure we get to meet those new people because they're really important to us. They're the people who can make a significance on the ground in Bondi. Anything further on item 6, the Western Division of Council's meeting? Yep. Being nothing further, then we'll put that all those in favour. Yes, carries. Moving on to item 7, the disclosure of interest, and I think we have those from every councillor now. That's all complete. So, table. All we need to do is note that those were tabled. I'll look at the recommendation. Yep. Councillor Kinsey, you moved that, second Councillor Jackson. Any further comments, questions before we put that recommendation? No. There being nothing further, we'll put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Moving on to the reports of the Division Manager of Finance and Administration. The first of those being the reconciliation certificate as of March 20 of this year, 2022. Someone happy to move the reconciliation certificate? Councillor Walker, Councillor Brewer. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, I'm happy to move the recommendation. Thank you.
Finance Administration, bringing up to speed the some of the FAGS grants are going to come in earlier. Can you reacquaint me of that and when you receive that?
Through Mr. Mayor, as advised, we received about 2.4 million. In that was in up 14 to 15 of this month of April.
Oh, okay. You know the dollar amount.
Yeah, which is 75% of the 2022-23 allocation.
And is it been broken down into roads component and no, not yet at this stage?
No, not at this stage. That's just an amount. That probably won't be broken down into those components until we know the final amount that we're going to get, because it's still only an approximate.
Right.
Yeah.
So that 2.4 million is not in the
No, it's only up to the end of March.
March, yes, so there's another 2.4 million.
But keep in mind, that's a brought forward number.
That'll be restricted at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any further comments, questions regarding the reconciliation certificate? If nothing further to put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Moving on to statement of the rates and annual charges. Someone happy to move those? Councillor Brewer, Councillor Walker, Councillor Brewer.
Just moving recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further comments, questions regarding item 2? Excuse me, statement of rates and annual charges. Being nothing further, we'll put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Moving on to works progress report in terms of finance administration projects. I know that Councillor Gerard has noted an interest and is leaving the room. Someone happy to move item 3 of the Divisional Manager of Finance Administration report, Councillor Jackson and Councillor Kinsey. Councillor Jackson. I don't know whether councillors have had a look at the new office reception area at the front of the building with the glass partitioning in place now. It's going to end up being pretty decent. I had a chat with the Divisional Finance Administration about whether we should enclose the actual meeting room a little more, but we'll sit back and wait a little bit to see how it pans out. In that there's some open space to allow air conditioning to actually operate through both rooms, and whether that is a problem in terms of privacy, we'll find out over time. I think whether we need to just close the top section in. It's about, in the old language, 18 inches plus more. so if you mention glass partition, go, I don't know, councillor, go and have a look at it, and it's added to the building significantly. The carpeting, and everything, yeah.
And we'll be putting, it won't have any strips, we'll be putting another strip all around, like on the Warren Community Room, on the doors. That'll go one above, one for there, one below, just give the book products.
That's good. It's a good project. It's bringing that building up to the standard we anticipated and wanted it to be. Councillor Walker.
I think it's also good to see the grant that the libraries received. Yeah, I don't know, I've seen the design and it looks fantastic. I don't know if that'll be changed, but yeah, well, add to the library. It's a great space. They're creative.
Anything further on item 3 of the Division Manager Finance Administration report? Infrastructure projects. Nothing further, put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Moving on to item 4, I'll get Councillor Garrett, ask her to return. Moving on to item 4 of the Division Management Finance Administration report, that being the 22-23 draft estimates, and the recommendation being that council advertise those for public comment. Councillor Kinsey, you happy to move that? Thank you. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Kinsey.
I just move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, we had a fairly extensive workshop on that a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, that was dealt with fairly well, and we went through all of the line items there to come to a balanced budget. So that's where we aim to be. Councillor Whiteley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to divisional manager. I'm sort of aware that some valuations have been changed. Is our Shire consistent when valuations are done, where our rate calculations are done? Is the whole Shire revalued as one?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Yeah, the whole Shire is revalued every 3 years. As to the methodology and how that they do that, whether they actually go on the ground around the whole Shire, or they might pick an area and then look at sales in that area and then base it. I can't tell you for sure on that, but when there was moved that we're going to bring into the FESL, the Foreign Merchant Services Levy, all New South Wales local councils went on the same valuation cycle, because that's where the issue. Prior to that, we were getting valued every 4 years, and it was, yeah, we might have got valued 1 year, and it might have been Bogans next year and Campbell's the year after. But with the introduction of that, the state government said, no, everyone's got to be done at the same time, so at least they're getting a fair value across the state for when they start looking at the introduction of federal level. Digital data, if you like. So yeah, now we've gone back to a 3 year, and the whole Shire's done at once, yeah. Well, the whole state's done, basically.
Consistent consistent across the board or across the track?
It should be, yeah, and but there is pockets of the Shire that, I mean, the last valuation, I know that around the Nevertire area and south in that area went up a hell of a lot more than what they did, say, out of the Haddon Rig areas and things like that. So how they come about that, all I can work on is sales in the area, but yeah, I can't determine and let you know, yeah, what their methodologies are.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments regarding the public, audio public comment for the draft 2022-23 estimates? And that they be advertised? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour, against, carried. Moving on to item 5 of the Division Main Finance Administration Report, the 2022 budget review. Someone happy to move the recommendation there. Councillor Jackson, will you move that, sorry? Yes. Second? Councillor Walker, Councillor Jackson.
I have further just to.
I think the information's there in front of us. The big change is the grants and contributions, that 586,000 there. Bringing that in terms of reviewing the budget. Manager of Finance Administration, is there anything else that you want to draw our attention to there?
Through Mr. Mayor, no, nothing in particular. I mean, I've tried to put some sort of an explanation on why I wanted to make, why we required some adjustments. We've had to hit our maintenance votes and our parks, gardens and showgrounds and things, and that's mainly due to the season. We had to go out and do a lot more mowing and things to keep the things tidy. So, but that was offset by increasing the plant higher income and expenses of $100,000 variance between those. Increase those, which is mainly due to flood damage emergency works that we've undertaken and working on the hours of our plant. So, it had a twofold effect in that way as well. But other than that, yeah, and with the weather, main breaks have been pretty horrendous in the water fund, and bringing in of the grants for the 2 grants for the showground basically. So other than that, and also the emergency work, getting the funding for that, which is for $425,000 worth. The main issue areas of it.
Councillor
For the Divisional Manager of Finance and Admin, you mentioned then that there was a shortfall in the parks and gardens and the town crews. That's a result of the emergency work on the levy, is that right? Or there was $100,000 or so, I just can't remember where I read it now. But we were hopeful to get that back, weren't we, reimbursed?
That has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
No, I haven't allowed anything for that emergency work for the levy at this point in time, or the flood. We're hopeful, we're hopeful that we will be refunded that, but that is not incorporated into any of those. I mean, to have a look at the to find where the levy one is, you have to go into the page.
Where do I read that the funding for parks and gardens is almost extended? And then
That was to the next report, which is all combined with.
Can we talk about that then I'll defer that question to them. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. On page 17 of the report, sorry, 18 of the report, it's under environmental and under the levy expenses, you can see that we've overspent by about 139,000. I've left it at that at this point in time. I haven't tried to find 139,000 or put in an offsetting grant income. At the end of the year, if they say no, we've got to put them fund it then. But I didn't want to go and try and massage other boats and take money from here, there and everywhere to try and find that. Then we find out we're going to get the money and find out that we haven't got the money at the end of the year. So it's me hoping that at the end of the year we'll have success to say we're going to get funded for it.
Councillor Walker.
Mr. Mayor, it's just that we did talk about this, and also that there were no overtime or weekend work to try and get around this issue.
Yeah, sure do. I mean, but at the time, it needed to be undertaken as events on the town or the events on at the showground, and we had to get the grass down. So, I mean, it was a matter of having to do it, basically.
The town looks.
Yes, and it's okay. I mean, it's not as if we still put up a balanced budget because of the other works that were undertaken that can fund it. So it's not a big issue at this stage.
Thank you. Any further questions regarding the Q2 budget review? If nothing further, put that all those in favour, against, carried. Moving on to the report from the Division Manager of Engineering Services, and the first of those being the Works Progress Report as pertains to roads. Someone have to move that, and motion to receive and noted. Thank you, Councillor Brewer. Second, Councillor Whiteley. Councillor Brewer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Firstly, I think I'd like to acknowledge the standing Division of Engineering Services is doing a cracking job, I think, under pretty adverse conditions without a head of that department. So, Raymond, thank you from me personally, but I think the rest of the council would acknowledge that you've got a fair bit on your plate at the moment, and you always seem to have the answers when we ask them, so you've got your finger on the pulse pretty well. And, you know, I saw this morning putting up some of the images here, and so you've got a fairly broad, you know, scope of work at the moment. So thank you for everything you're doing there. And indeed, our road network is, under the circumstances, in pretty good condition, but we've got more rain coming, and, you know, it's not going to get better, I don't think, in the next few months. So brace ourselves and put some hours on that new grader, I guess. That's really all I can say. I'm just moving the recommendation and trying to acknowledge a good effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brewer. Any further comments, questions regarding item 1 of the Division of Manager of Engineering Services? Councillor Kinsey.
Grader crew. Obviously, they are going to go to Capricorn Lane, do some maintenance. Has that been done?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'll take that question on notice and I'll get back to you.
Fair enough. The other one, I can't find Capricorn Lane on that paperwork over there.
It's not on there.
Ah, why not?
It's emergency works.
Right, fair enough.
And their upcoming works, Tabraton Lane, sometime. But there's a chance it's been delayed because the amount of leave that roads crew have taken a fair amount of leave in the last 2 weeks. So it's probably a slight delay for getting to Tabraton Lane.
That's fine, thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, and it's not addressed to the acting manager engineer services, it's more as a structural thing. We go out and publicise that we're going to do certain events and certain road gradings and stuff, and for some reason, when acceptable reasons, that doesn't happen because of weather, etc., etc., etc. And then when we go on to the next report or the next what we're planning to do the next month, some of those items drop off and disappear and don't happen at all. And I'm not going into specifics, but I think that the management of the public notification of what's going to happen and what actually happens and could be addressed, and I qualify that with my I'm acutely aware of the staffing problems in the engineering department. I'm just trying to say that when we say we're going to do something, we go do it, or we say why.
Very fair and reasonable comment. I'd endorse that entirely. If we say we're doing something, we need to see that it's done and ticked off. The General Manager will take that on board. Thank you, Councillor Whiteley. Anything further on item 1, the Works Progress Report pertaining to roads? Councillor Walker.
Through the Divisional Manager of Engineering Services, I was just wondering with the work that you're doing, curb and gutter in Warren, in town, is it, I know the weather's probably been an issue, but, the lengths of, because of the, you know, due to costs, are they, I'm just probably asking for a bit of an update on how it's all going and what has changed.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, because of the increased costs that I identified during the Nevertire works, the lengths have been reduced somewhat. I don't have a specific number at the moment, but it has been cut back, and then if there's any more that we can squeeze in under the budget, it will certainly be done, but we'll get that information excuse me, to you as soon as I can muster it.
Mr. Mayor, on page 5, that's why it's listed priority 1, priority 2. That's why it was the manager at the time hinted that he was concerned about the 92,000, because 92,000 just for, or call it curb and gutter, came from our special reserve. There are other works on top of that that's coming from the village enhancement program, and both the acting division of engineering services and the roads infrastructure manager are trying to control themselves so we don't overspend. And so one's got priority and the other one's got some priorities too. It keeps raining in making at the moment too.
Any further comments, questions regarding item 1? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 2, which is the Manager of Engineering Services report. That being the Town Services report. Someone happy to move item 2, recommendation? Councillor Whiteley. Councillor Garrett. Councillor Whiteley.
I commend the report to council for comment.
Any comments, questions regarding item 2, the Town Services report? Nothing further, we'll put that. Oh, sorry, Councillor Kinsey, you have a question, sorry?
Yes, please. There's, the smoke testing, when did that pan out?
I'm still working on that, unfortunately, with it's taken a lower priority compared to some other things that are happening, but it's still on my list to do.
No worries. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further comments, questions regarding item 2, the Manager of Engineering Services report, Town Services? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Third item on the Manager of Engineering Services report, that being the fleet and workshop report. Someone happy to move that? Councillor Field, thank you. Second, Councillor Walker. Councillor Field.
Simply moving the recommendation. Thank you. There's nothing in there that sticks out as an issue.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 3? The plant and fleet workshop report? Being nothing further, put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the reports from the Manager of Health and Development. The first of those being the development application approvals. Councillor Jackson, you move that. Second, Councillor Walker. Councillor Jackson.
Oh, I just, have nothing for the add, just the move.
A few advertising in the paper this week.
Yeah. further at all? No comments because we have now. Easy fixed. Put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Moving on to the item 2, the, excuse me, report of the Managed Health and Development, works progress report. Someone happy to move that? So, Councillor Walker, second, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to move the recommendation. So I just wanted to ask you, the health and development about urban houses, and was there any progress in that area?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the solicitor has lodged a complaint through NCAT, which is the first step. Department of Fair Trading has come back to us requesting additional information, and we've provided that yesterday. So yeah, that's where it's up to.
Any further comments, questions regarding item 2, Managed Health and Development report? Nothing further, put that, all those in favour, against, carried. We have no notice of motion or questions regarding notice. We have no notice of urgency at the time I'm aware of. We do have some confidential matters to consider. Councillor, are you happy to keep moving this? Yep. In regard to confidential matters, we do need a resolution to move into committee of the whole proposed council. Someone happy to move that, Councillor Kingsley and Councillor Carla. And then secondly, we need a resolution to exclude members of the public and the press. And one of you two gentlemen, we're happy to move the same lines. Thank you, Councillor Kingsley, Councillor. Operating properly? Yep. Council, we'll now reopen the ordinary April meeting of Warrandyte Council, and out of the committee of the whole proposed council, there will be 2 recommendations come out of that. First one of those relating to the purchase of a roller, from Westpac rubber tire roller, and so that was moved by Councillor Brewer and Councillor Whiteley. So we'll ask you two councillors if you're happy to move that recommendation in open council. Thank you. I don't believe there's any further discussion required on that, so I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And the second item that was considered and the recommendation coming out of the Committee of the Whole Closed Council regarding the General Manager's performance review was that the information regarding the General Manager's 12-month or his annual performance review we received and noted. Looking for the mover and the seconder of that, those two were Councillor Brewer and Councillor Kinsey. Again, I don't believe any further discussion is warranted. That being the case, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. I think that concludes our meeting, does it not? Anything else?